Haggerty is going to talk now. I told him I would briefly introduce him. He said, "You're not going to tell the truth of it." So, Mr. Haggerty, I'll call him Kevin. He's a friend of mine. He's a former neighbor of mine. I mowed his lawn and blew his snow off his driveway for a few years. But we have become very good friends, and he's a mentor of mine. He actually helped me with a lot of personal stress management. Stress will come in many forms. You guys are definitely exposed to it in your first 2 years of medical school. It won't lighten up, especially in your first 2 years of residency. It probably will peak. It will continue throughout your career, even after 25 years of private practice when you decide maybe to go into academic medicine. So you need to know how to handle stress, how to recognize it, and Mr. Haggard is hopefully going to go over some really interesting approaches to managing stress.
Thank you, Steve. Ready to tell the truth? He's the best neighbor I have ever had. While he was using his snowblower on my driveway one fine winter day, it was just a beautiful day, fresh snow, blue sky, bright sun, and I said, anybody want to go skiing? Instead of saying, "Steve, let me take over the snowblower for a while." And his wife and daughter and myself went skiing. So how are you all doing?
Great.
Were there some of you who didn't get up at the break? You should stand up and stretch right now, or just move around a little bit. Jamie will teach you some Zumba. You just got back from the Zumba class. I'm sorry. So I'm a psychologist, and you know how many psychologists it takes to change a light bulb, right? Oh, that's for me personally. I need somebody to, I hold the bulb and two people turn the ladder around. No, a psychologist, they're different.
How many people do you think it takes?
Why did you ask that question? It only takes one, but the light bulb has to want to change. No bad joke. So more importantly than being a psychologist, I'm a husband and the father of 2 sons and one magnificent daughter-in-law. The other one moved on. And 3 grandchildren. 2 little girls whom I love to be around, but they are in Tampa and I'm in Greensboro, so that's a problem. And also, I am very fortunate in that I have a grandson in Greensboro, a 9-year-old, who is delightful. And a little bit mouthy, but, you know. You can't be totally cooperative with the world around you, because then you're giving up all your creativity. So it's really helpful to have a little bit, at least, of a rebellious child within you. So, the question here is, who are you? And as you can see, I've given an answer. So, in talking about stress, there's a huge amount of data in terms of the science and how to manage your bodies, and very often how to manage your emotions, although a lot of people need therapy for that in order to manage their stress. You might also know, well, let me ask the question first. How many of you meditate? That's a pretty healthy 20%. Raising your hands. And I think what you mean is you specifically sit down or whatever you do and say, I'm going to meditate. And you do that. You might do it 5 minutes a day. You might do it 5 minutes every other day. You might do it a half an hour at a time. There are all kinds of different ways of meditating. In fact, in saying that, what I'm saying is that you all meditate, you just don't do it formally. So, any fisher persons here? Throw a line out there. No? Yes? Some of you know what fishing is like, right? Maybe you haven't done it in a long time. But you stand there and you watch the bobber. How important on a scale of 1 to 10 is it to catch a fish? Pretty low for some of you, right? Yeah. Some of you have been golfers when you had the time, maybe in high school, right? You're at a beautiful place, you're looking at the trees, you take a moment off from obsessing in an obsessive-compulsive way about your score, and you just enjoy the views, the lakes, the mountains, right? It's a form of meditation. When you have time, some of you even wake up in the morning and you just kind of lie there, right? And you're sort of half asleep, you don't know if you're dreaming, you don't know if it's real. That's a form of meditation. And I think the common denominator there is probably your brainwave. You're probably in an alpha state, which usually is a very enjoyable state. Now, you can do that for free. Back in the 60s, everybody thought that they had to do it by paying money to a drug dealer or whatever. It's free, and it's legal. Well, that used to be more important than it is now, because you can be in Colorado, and of course it's legal. So, there are all different kinds of ways of meditating. And when you can utilize your meditative state in ways that are helpful to you and to others, you will find your life much more successful. So, and one of the main points about leadership that Jim also emphasized is that you need, first of all, to be the leader of yourself. So that's why it's important to know who you are. Now, you all have a personality, right? The fact of the matter is, you all have a cast of characters. So you can have this personality at a party, and this personality at a business meeting, this personality with your fellow students, and this one with one of your professors. We can be all over the place. And I'm not suggesting that the room is full of multiple personality disorder types. The difference between us, I'll include myself in that, and a multiple personality disorder person is that we have an executive personality that knows how to manage all the others. And the problem with personality disorder folks is that they had some traumatic events when they were very young, didn't know how to handle them, and split off. They say things like, that happened to Barbara, that didn't happen to me. And sometimes they'll even, in terms of dealing with police personnel in situations of serious abuse or kidnapping, they'll talk that way, that what happened to Barbara or what happened to Sam or Joe was such and such and so-and-so. And the authorities know that they are talking about themselves, but they are already splitting off, dissociating. So they have a dissociative disorder, which is very unhealthy. Being in an alpha state tends to be very healthy unless you are driving. And I believe that when they talk about cycles per second for brainwaves, they typically talk about 8 to 14 for the alpha state. And below that, and between that and deep sleep, is theta. I believe that we will eventually learn how to master being in the theta state and stay awake. Because usually when you get into a theta state, you're asleep. So even Thomas Edison was experimenting with that. He was interested in discovering some things about the supernatural or the psychic and so on. So he would sit in an armchair with a steel ball in each hand, and he had already placed a pie pan on the floor so that when he would fall asleep, the steel ball would hit the pie plate and wake him up, and then he would take notes. But that happened late in his life. He didn't get very far. Some of you might want to pursue his work for him and just really continue it since you're so young. You have years to do it and to master what that's all about. So, okay, who are you? All right, this is going to be a quickie. I want you to find somebody that you don't know so well. Some of you will have to stand up and talk to somebody near you. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to take turns asking your partner, who are you? And that's all you get to say. Your partner answers each time. And you get to do that at least 10 times. I'll give you a few minutes. And just notice what you hear, but more importantly, notice that when you are telling your partner who you are, notice what you say. So that you can remember that as I talk a little bit more about the model of how to understand more fully who you really are and to be more self-aware about that. Because for leadership in any field, you need to have self-awareness. And having sufficient self-awareness will also enable you to understand that when people are giving you feedback that you don't particularly like, you'll be able to handle it better. Your ego will get all bent out of whack. Okay, so, a few minutes. Pick a partner. Somebody you don't know well.
Let's go. All right, who are you?
Okay, 1 minute warning. requires an autocratic and dictatorial style. Get back to your seats. Now you can all know who you are. It's my job to show you that you don't. By the way, you know that the world is crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to turn the news on to see that, but if you do, you'll see a lot of craziness. Now the problem is, you are crazy too. I say it that way even though I know I'm crazy as well. But it sounds like an accusation, and some of your first thoughts were probably, how could you say that about me? So, here's a picture of the way you were when you had the most integrity that you've ever had. You were born fully self-aware at your level of expected awareness, with a mind that wasn't very big, although you had all the necessary wiring to develop a mind. But in terms of cognitive understanding, you know, it takes about 4 or 5 years before a kid even has a minimal glimmer of cause and effect. So it's the pretty astute 5-year-olds who can think scientifically, at least somewhat. So, and you had a body, well, that wasn't very big, but you were aware of it. And your emotions, you were able to communicate by your emotions. You had an essence. We all have an essence. Now, this is not scientific, I want you to know. However, it has been part of all the wisdom traditions that we know of over the centuries. And it's been called spirit, soul, consciousness, all kinds of things. Essentially, though, it means that the most important part of us is a little bit vague and difficult to understand. However, it's as if we were floating in essence. So, at age 3, we're starting to grow our mind. We also have an adaptive child, an AC. It goes along with things because it knows that that works with mom and dad and maybe big brother, big sister. A rebellious child, and even when the child is saying yes, okay, there's a part of it that's saying, this is no fun, I don't want to do this, and that's your rebellious child. Of course, how old are you when that comes to the fore, typically?
2.
Well, that's a good time. Yeah, the favorite word of a 2-year-old is no, right? But some of us don't really get there until about age, no, I don't know, most of you, the average age here I read on your website is 27, so let's say 27. And your body, of course, is getting bigger. And your emotions are still out there. The FC stands for free child. And that's the part of you that is just all out there and very creative, very curious, explores, just loves life. And they're wonderful to be around. I bet you were too when you were 3, most of the time. Up here, we have LP for Little Professor. At age 3, the little professor sometimes comes out with these marvelous pearls of wisdom, if you will. And sometimes they're way off. The typical 4-year-old will, in its early stages of ego and understanding the world, say, Daddy took me for a ride tonight. And the moon was so bright, it was following us. And Daddy arranged that so I could enjoy my ride in the moonlight. By age 6, we're leaving our essence behind because it's not socially acceptable in so many ways. So we're building a personality with an ego. And that becomes what's normal. And a lot of it has to do, of course, with the programming that we get from our parents. I bet every one of you here tonight can remember something that your mom or dad used to say fairly regularly. Right? I can remember hearing, quit your crying or I'll give you something to cry for. Anybody else remember that? Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, the program, you know, even to this day, the sad part in a movie, in the theater, before I feel my tears coming out of my eyes, I feel the tensing headache happening. So it's so automatic, even though I've worked on it. Okay, I'm going to fly through this, so a lot of this would be somewhat vague to you still. Age 12, the barrier. You start to build a barrier against our essence. We don't want to have emotions, so we start to, through our mind's programming, and the other 7th, 8th graders, we decide what's the best way to live, what's the best way to be, what's cool, what's not cool, how to have friends, what I have to do to get liked, and so on. And who said what about me, and I'll remember that, or I can't get over this, how could she, how could he have said that, or done that. A friend of mine, this goes back a few years, one of her friends, a mother of a 7th grader, when the girl came home from school, she was crying, and mom said, "What's wrong, honey?" She said, "Mary Ann looked at the label in my shirt and turned it out. And she told everybody that I was wearing the wrong label, the wrong kind of shirt." Okay? At least she had a shirt, right? So we start to ignore our bodies more and more, too. That's how we get football teams. People are willing to put up with all the pain. Boys especially. So now, look how big the mind is getting. All the stuff you had to do mentally to get into WVSOM. And so on. The barrier becomes stronger. Who, me, meditate? I don't have time for that crap. You ever hear of a walking meditation? Some people over-exaggerate. Some people have very strict rules for what a meditation is. And this would fit the category for me of body awareness rather than a meditation. Pay attention to everything you do. To me, a